House of the Dragon returns. Season 3 premieres June 21st on HBO. 8 episodes, finale on August 9th. And the first episode reportedly opens with the Battle of the Gullet, the bloodiest naval battle in the history of Westeros. Everyone is talking about the battles. The Gullet, the Butcher's Ball, Tumbleton. Dragons are finally going to fight, and dragons are finally going to die. But this video is not about a battle. This video is about the craziest theory in the entire fandom. A theory that, the longer you sit with it, starts to feel less like a theory and more like the thing the show has been quietly telling us for 2 whole seasons. Here it is, in one sentence. Helaena Targaryen is not predicting the dance of the dragons. She is weaving it. Not watching the war, not dreaming the war, running it. The quiet girl who likes bugs, the sister everyone ignores, the queen nobody listens to. She is the single most powerful character in this story. She is plugged into the same magical network that Bran Stark uses 170 years later, and the entire Targaryen civil war is, in a sense, her project, a controlled burn. And in Season 3, I think the show is going to confirm it. First, let's establish something the show has never said out loud, but has proven over and over. Helaena is never wrong. Back in Season 1, she says her brother will have to close an eye.
He'll have to close an eye. I know it.
Everyone ignores her. Then Aemond loses an eye at Driftmark. In Season 1, she mutters about a beast beneath the boards. Everyone ignores her. Then the Green seize the throne and Aegon is crowned in the Dragon Pit, a beast literally beneath the floorboards of King's Landing. 2 for 2. Season 2 opens with Helaena anxious about rats.
I'm afraid. Not the dragons. The rats.
Everyone ignores her. That same night, 2 rat catchers walk into her chambers and murder her son. 3 for 3. And this one is monstrous because the show lets us understand that she felt it coming and could not stop it. Then there's the cricket vision. 3 cages, 3 crickets, each one singing. 3 riderless dragons waiting to be claimed. 1 episode later, Rhaenyra runs the Red Sowing, and Vermithor, Silverwing, and Seasmoke get riders. 4 for 4. Sportskeeda. And then the finale takes it somewhere new.
I need you to fly with Dreamfire to battle.
Aemond. I do not wish to fight.
And she refuses.
I won't burn anyone.
And then she tells him something she could not possibly know. She tells him she saw him burn Aegon at Rook's Rest and let him fall. A thing nobody witnessed. A thing nobody admits. A secret between Aemond and the sky. The look on Aemond's face in that scene is the look of a man realizing his sister has been reading the script the whole time. So when she then tells him his future,
Aegon will be king again.
We have every reason to believe her. She says Aegon will be king again, that he's yet to see his victory, that he sits on a wooden throne, and that Aemond will be dead, swallowed up in the god's eye, never to be seen again. Notice the precision.
You'll be dead. You were swallowed up in the god's eye, and you are never seen again.
And book readers know exactly how precise this is, because in Fire and Blood, that is exactly where and exactly how Aemond dies. In the battle above the god's eye, Daemon leaps from Carax's onto Vhagar's back, drives Dark Sister through Aemond's blind eye, and all 4 of them, both riders, both dragons, go down into the lake. Aemond's body sinks, swallowed up, never seen again. Helaena described it a year in advance, to his face, calmly, like reading from a history book that hasn't been written yet. We'll come back to that lake, because that lake is the key to this whole theory. But so far, you could still say, fine, she's a dreamer. Targaryens have prophetic dreams. The show told us that in episode 1. Helaena sees the future the way Aegon the Conqueror saw the Long Night. Passive, a receiver, not a transmitter. Except for one scene. One scene that breaks that explanation completely. Season 2 finale, Harrenhal. Alice Rivers leads Daemon to the weirwood tree and tells him to touch it, and Daemon gets the single most important vision in the history of this franchise. He sees the 3-eyed raven, the army of the dead beyond the wall, the Long Night, a dying dragon, and Daenerys Targaryen with her 3 newborn dragons, the literal final shot of Game of Thrones Season 1, recreated inside a prequel. He sees the Red Comet.
Red Comet means one thing, boy. Dragons.
He sees Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne, and he sees himself sinking into dark water, which, if you know the book, is exactly how Daemon's story ends, in that same battle above that same lake. The gamer the rap. This is the show putting all its cards on the table. The Weirwood network is real. It is operational 170 years before Bran. It knows the entire future, down to individual camera shots. And it has an agenda, because it shows Daemon precisely the sequence of images that will flip him from, maybe I should be king, to I will kneel to Rhaenyra and fight for the future.
You are the true queen, Rhaenyra.
Which is exactly what he then does, walking out and telling Rhaenyra, in High Valyrian, that the war is only the beginning, that winter is coming with darkness and doom. She tells him he sounds like her father. He's fine with that now. The tree didn't show Daemon a vision. The tree recruited him. And who is standing inside that vision at the end, delivering the closing argument? Not Alice, not the three-eyed raven, Helaena. She appears in Daemon's Weirwood vision and tells him it's all a story. And you're but one part in it. You know your part.
It's all a story. And you're but one part in it. You know your part.
Now think about what that means mechanically. Helaena is in King's Landing. Daemon is at Harrenhal, weeks of travel away. They have never shared a scene in the entire series. And yet she is inside his head, inside a vision generated by a weirwood tree, speaking to him directly. And here's the detail that fan communities caught immediately. The show cuts from the vision to Helaena standing on her balcony in King's Landing, wearing the same clothes she wears inside the vision. Same dress, same moment. That's not a symbol. That's not Daemon's imagination decorating itself with his niece's face. That is the show telling you, as plainly as visual language allows, that the real Helaena was present in that vision, in real time, projecting across the continent. And that is not a dragon dream. Dragon dreamers see the past, present, and future, but there is no precedent for astral projection. Seeing through trees, walking into other people's visions, speaking through the network. In this universe, that is Greenseer territory. That's Bran. That's Bloodraven. That's the children of the forest. Helaena isn't a girl who gets postcards from the future. She has a login. She's inside the system. And listen to what she actually says, because the wording is everything. She doesn't say, I have seen your future. She says it's all a story, and you're one part in it. And you know your part. That is not the language of a fellow passenger. That is the language of a narrator. Someone who has read the whole book and is making sure the characters hit their marks. Now rewind to Season 1 to a line that seemed like background noise at the time. Helaena, mid-mutter, drops this.
Dragons of flesh, weaving dragons of thread. Hand turns loom.
For 2 years, people read this as a poetic image of the war. Green thread, black thread, greens versus blacks, the war as a tapestry. Pretty, sad, decorative. But look at the grammar. A loom doesn't weave itself. A hand turns it. Threads don't choose their pattern, the weaver does. Helaena didn't describe a war, she described a craft. A deliberate, guided process where green and black are not enemies but materials. And the finished product, the thing being made out of all this blood, is dragons of thread. Dragons that exist only as story. Dragons reduced to pictures, to memory, to tapestry. Which is, historically, exactly what the Dance of the Dragons accomplishes. Roughly 24 dragons are alive when this war begins. By its end, a handful of survivors, and the species never recovers. The last dragon, a stunted, sickly thing, dies barely a generation later, and by the time of Game of Thrones, dragons are skulls on a wall and pictures in books. Dragons of flesh became dragons of thread. The dance is the machine that did it, and Helaena described that machine with a hand on the crank before the war even started. So here's the theory in full, and yes, this is the crazy part. The Weirwood network, the old gods, the children, the green seers, whatever you want to call the consciousness inside the trees, needs the dragons gone. Not forever, reduced, banked down to embers, to 3 eggs that will wait a century and a half for the right pair of hands. Daemon's vision shows the end state explicitly. Eggs in fire, and then Daenerys. The Dance of the Dragons isn't a tragedy the trees are sadly watching. It's a pruning, a controlled extinction event, timed and tended. And Helaena, a Targaryen with green seer access, a queen positioned at the dead center of the green camp, is the hand on the loom. She doesn't cause the war. The men around her are perfectly capable of that. Her job is quieter and far more chilling. She makes sure it ends the right way. She nudges. She withholds. She tells Aemond exactly enough to send him to the God's Eye and refuses to lift a wing to change anything else. Crazy? Completely. Now let me show you why it's also the most believable theory on the board. Because here's the question that unlocks everything. Why does all the magic in this show orbit one lake? The God's Eye is the largest lake in the 7 kingdoms, and in the middle of it sits the Isle of Faces, the holiest site of the old gods in the south, covered in weirwood trees, supposedly home to the mysterious green men, and the place where the children of the forest and the first men signed the pact that ended their ancient war. If the weirwood network has a server room south of the neck, it's that island. On the shore of that lake sits Harrenhal, the cursed castle where Daemon spends an entire season being dismantled and rebuilt by visions. In that castle lives Alice Rivers, a woman who knew Daemon was coming, who feeds him prophecy with his breakfast, and who personally walks him to the weirwood and puts his hand on the trunk. The show has gone out of its way to make Alice ageless, uncanny, and impossible to explain as just a clever herbalist. Whoever she is, she works for the trees. She's the local administrator. And where does Helaena say Aemond will die? Not at Harrenhal, not in the Riverlands, in the God's Eye. Swallowed up. The largest dragon in the world, the living symbol of Targaryen fire, goes down into the sacred water of the old gods, directly in front of the Isle of Faces, and is never seen again. The lake doesn't witness Aemond's death. The lake eats him. Once you see it, the geography of this entire war starts looking deliberate. The trees pulled Daemon, the Black's best weapon, to their lake and reprogrammed him there. The trees are pulling Aemond, the Green's best weapon, to the same lake to be destroyed there. Both of the war's apex predators, both of the men most likely to actually win this thing outright for their side, get routed to the one place in Westeros where the old gods are strongest. And one more piece, just to make your skin crawl. In Daemon's vision, among the comet and the eggs and the snow, there is one image that has nothing to do with Game of Thrones nostalgia, a dying dragon. Of everything the network could show him, it made sure he saw a dragon dead on the ground. The trees aren't hiding their goal. They showed it to Daemon's face. He just didn't understand what he was looking at. Helaena would. Now, the strongest evidence of all, and it comes from comparing the show to its source. In Fire and Blood, Helaena Targaryen is not a dreamer. At all. 0 prophecies, 0 visions. Book Helaena is a sweet, happy young woman who loves her children, suffers the most horrifying loss in the entire saga, and is destroyed by grief. That's her whole arc. It is devastating, and it is completely mundane. Every single supernatural thing about show Helaena, the Eye prophecy, the beast beneath the boards, the rats, the crickets, the loom, the Rook's Rest knowledge, the God's Eye prophecy, and above all, her appearance inside a weirwood vision 200 leagues away. Every bit of it was invented by the show, on purpose, brick by brick, across 2 seasons. Television doesn't do that by accident. You don't take a minor tragic figure and quietly hand her omniscience, scene after scene, season after season, unless she's a load-bearing wall in your endgame. Ryan Condal sat in rooms with George Martin building this adaptation, and the single biggest sustained invention of that adaptation is Helaena sees everything. Showrunners build a gun like that for one reason, to fire it. And Season 3 is where the book hands them the trigger, because in Fire and Blood, the year 130 takes Helaena to the darkest place in the entire dance. With King's Landing fallen, and Helaena, prisoner in all but name, she dies falling from her window in Maegor's holdfast onto the spikes below. The histories call it grief. The small folk, who loved her more than anyone else in either royal family, refused to believe it, the rumor of murder spreads, and that rumor becomes the spark for the riots that consume the city, including the night a mob storms the dragon pit and kills several dragons before dawn. Read that chain of events again through the lens of this theory. Helena's death directly causes the single largest one-night extinction of dragons in history. Even her exit feeds the loom. Now run that moment through everything the show has built. A woman who has seen the whole tapestry, who told her brother calmly to his face when and where he would die, who told Daemon that everyone is just a part in a story, including, by her own logic, herself. The show has spent 2 seasons transforming Helena's book fate from a tragedy of despair into something almost unbearably bigger, the weaver finishing her thread. She knows her part too. And I think Season 3's most devastating scene won't be a battle at all. It will be Helaena, perfectly calm, stepping out of the story at the exact moment the pattern requires it. Not because she's broken, because she's done. If the show frames it that way, with one last vision, one last line to someone who finally too late believes her, it will retroactively recolor every Helaena scene since Season 1, and it will be the moment this theory stops being a theory. Now, am I certain? No. Let's be honest about the cracks, because a theory that ignores its own weaknesses is just fan fiction with confidence. Reading 1, Helaena is a passive dreamer with unusually good reception, and the weirwood used her image in Daemon's vision the way it used Daenerys's, as a picture, not a person. The matching dress is just costume department economy. Possible. But it requires ignoring that the show deliberately cut from the vision straight to her balcony, which is the most basic visual grammar there is for this is happening simultaneously and she knows. Reading 2, the network is doing all the weaving, and Helaena is merely its favorite mouthpiece. A thread that can see the loom, but a thread all the same. Honestly, this might be the saddest version, and I'd accept it. It keeps the machinery and softens her agency, but it doesn't explain why she withholds. She knew about the rats and said nothing actionable. She knows Aemon's death point and tells him in a way guaranteed to make him march toward it, because telling Aemond he dies at the God's Eye doesn't warn him off, it dares him. She's not failing to change the future. She is, with surgical consistency, declining to. Reading 3, the show never explains any of it, the visions stay vibes, and we all wave at this video from the wreckage of our expectations. Given this franchise's history with endings, yeah, pour one out for the risk. But here's my actual position. The Daemon vision was the show's point of no return. You don't put the Night King, Daenerys, and the Red Comet into your prequel and then shrug. The mythology is now the spine of this story. The show has one more season after this one, with Season 4 confirmed as the final season, which means everything from here on is endgame architecture. And Helaena is standing at the exact intersection of every mythological thread the show has laid down. The simplest explanation for 2 seasons of deliberate construction is that it was construction. And here's why I love this theory beyond the puzzle box of it. Because it takes the oldest question in this franchise, prophecy or choice, destiny or chaos, and makes it personal in a way even Game of Thrones never quite managed. Every player in the dance believes they're choosing. Aemond chooses vengeance. Aegon chooses spite. Alicent chooses duty, then regret. Rhaenyra chooses restraint, then war. Daemon chooses himself right up until a tree chooses otherwise. They all think they're protagonists, and the one person who can actually see the whole board, the one person with genuine power over the pattern, is the person everyone in both camps dismisses as a strange, broken girl. The realm fights over a chair. Helaena tends a loom. If the theory is right, then the Dance of the Dragons is not a war at all. It's a sacrifice, 170 years early, paid in fire so that one day, when the true long night comes, there will be 3 eggs and a girl in the flames, and a song worth singing. Dragons of flesh, weaving dragons of thread, until the moment the world needs the thread to become flesh again. And if the theory is wrong, then Helaena is just a girl who saw everything and could save no one, not even herself. And honestly, I'm not sure which version breaks my heart more. Either way, we find out soon. 8 episodes, starting June 21st. Watch Helaena, watch what she says, and watch what she chooses not to say. It's all a story.
And you're but one part in it.
See you there.